Hi, I'm Shion.
And I'm Cindy.
And today we'll be talking about tissues. No, not this tissues. Not the stuff you use to wipe your tears out when you fail your human anatomy quiz. I'm talking about the tissue you find all throughout your body.
Tissues are a group of cells that have similar function and similar structure.
There are four main types of tissue: epithelial, connective, muscular, and nervous. The first type of tissues, known as epithelium, covers external and internal surfaces throughout the body.
Like the skin, or your digestive tract, or your respiratory passages.
They have five main functions. They protect underlying structures,
they act as a barrier,
permit the passages of substances,
secrete substances,
and absorb substances.
Epithelium tissues are classified by their number of layers and the shape of their cells. First, layers. There's the simple layer, which is just one layer, and there's the stratified, which is multiple layers. And also, for the shape of their cells, there's the squamous, which are flat. Then there's the cuboidal, cube-shaped, and then there's the columnar, tall and thin.
The simple squamous epithelium are thin, often hexagonal cells. Their thin layer is well suited for functions such as diffusion and filtration. They are found in the lining of blood vessels of the heart, but also in the air sacs of the lungs. The simple cuboidal epithelium is a single layer of cube-shaped cells that have an increased number of cell organelles, particularly mitochondria.
Mitochondria. Well, the more mitochondria there are, the more ATP will be produced, which helps with the facilitated diffusion and active transports. And they can be found in kidney tubules or the lining of the ovaries.
Here you can see that there is a single layer of cuboidal cells surrounding the white substance in the middle. The simple columnar epithelium is a single layer of tall, thin cells that contain a lot of cell organelles.
One of their main functions is to secrete mucus so as they can move particles out of the bronchioles of the lungs.
Another one of their functions is to absorb and secrete substances in the digestive system. Here you can see that there are tall, thin columnar cells on the surface of each structure. There is another type of epithelium known as a pseudo-stratified layer. It appears to be two layers, but it's only one layer. Some layers are shorter and others are taller and reach their surface.
Their main function is to move particles around, kind of like your nose. Okay? Let's pretend this is the booger.
Mucus!
Mucus! There we go. See? And these little things are called cilia.
And they move through the mucus
along
the membrane. Yes, it is. They can be found in the nasal cavity, sinuses, auditory tubes, larynx, trachea, and the bronchi of the lungs. In the middle of this image, you can see shorter cells that are not reaching the surface. However, there are also taller cells that reach the top.
Now, moving on to stratified layers. As you can see, it consists of multiple layers, but in a stratified squamous epithelium, the bottom layers are mostly cuboidal or columnar, and they're capable of dividing so that when this part tears, they can move up.
Anatomy.
They're mostly found in the mouth, which has non-keratinized stratified squamous, which provides protection, and There's also the keratinized squamous epithelium, which provides protection against abrasion and forms a barrier that prevents microorganisms from going in the body.
Here you can see that towards the center of the layer, the cells are irregular or somewhat cuboidal in shape. However, as you go to the top, the cells become squamous.
Moving on to the second stratified layer, called, as you can see, they're all cubes, partially. Now, the stratified cuboidal epithelium consists of more than one layer of cuboidal epithelial cells. And just like the rest of them, it protects, secretes, and absorbs things. They're relatively rare, and they're mostly found in sweat glands, ovarian follicular cells, and salivary glands.
Here there are multiple layers of cuboidal cells.
Now we come to the third stratified epithelium tissue. This is the stratified columnar epithelium. As you can see, it's more than one layer of epithelial cells, but only the surface are columnar, while the bottom are irregular or cuboidal in shape. They're also very relatively rare and can be found in the boobs, the larynx, and a portion of the male urethra. And it carries out secretion, protection, and absorption.
In the deeper end of the layer, the cells are cube-shaped. However, as you go to the surface, the cells are columnar in shape.
Now, we're moving on to a special type of epithelium tissue. It's called the Transitional Epithelium. Okay, when it's unstretched, it consists of 5 layers of cuboidal or columnar cells that are dome-shaped at the surface, but you can't see it here now. Now, when it's stretched, the cells change to low cuboidal and squamous shape, and then it stretches to a squamous shape. It's mostly on organs that hold something, like your pee, in the urinary bladder.
Here is the transitional epithelium when it is not stretched. The top is cuboidal, and the middle seems to be columnar. Now, if the transitional epithelium were to be stretched, this is what it would look like. The cells are flatter in shape, and there are less cell layers.
Glands are structures that secrete substances into the body or outside of the body. Now, there are 2 main types. The first type are the exocrine glands. They're the ones that have ducts so that they can secrete stuff to the outside of the body. Kind of like an extrovert like me. Like they, express their emotions outside. Yeah?
And then there's the endocrine glands. They secrete substances into the body because they don't have any ducts. They secrete hormones into the bloodstream. They're more like introverts, like me. I keep my feelings to myself, and I don't express them.
Now, let's move on to the second major type of tissue, the connective tissue.
The connective tissue is found throughout the body, and they are characterized by large amounts of extracellular material that separate cells from one another. The extracellular material is made of 3 main parts: proteins, ground substances, and fluid. Now let's move on to the functions of the connective tissue.
Now, the first main function is that they enclose and separate other tissues from other. I'm the tissue, and that's the... The second function of connective tissues is that they connect tissues to another tissue.
I'm the muscle. I'm the bone. And we're connected by a tendon. We're connected forever! Another function of the connective tissue is to support and move parts of the body.
Another main function is that they store high energy molecules and minerals. The skin and insulate heat. The sixth function of connective tissue is that they transport things like the blood transport gases, nutrients, etc. all throughout the body.
My brother has to be the teeth.
Kind of like that. In a smoother version. Okay.
Similar to the epithelial tissue, the connective tissue also serves as protection, like the bones protecting underlying structures. The first type of protein fibers, called collagen fibers, are flexible but resist stretching. Another type of protein fibers, called the elastic fibers, are more stretchy, and when stretched, they recoil back to their original shape.
Now, the third type of protein fiber is called the reticular fibers. It's very short, fine collagen fibers that branch out to form a supporting structure.
Connective tissue is classified by the type and proportion of cells and the extracellular matrix. There are two major categories, embryonic and adult connective. Right now we'll only be talking about adult connective tissue. And within the adult connective tissue, there are three types: connective tissue proper, supporting connective tissue, and fluid connective tissue. The first type of connective tissue proper, loose connective tissue, consists of relatively few protein fibers that form a lacy network, as you can see in this image. All the spaces in between are filled with ground substances and fluid. You can find the loose connective tissue all throughout the body, under the skin. The areolar tissue of the loose connective tissue is mostly made of collagen and few elastic fibers. It is located between the dermis of the skin and the muscle. It attaches the skin to the tissues under it and provides food for it. Now we will move on to the adipose tissue.
Let's pretend these are adipocytes. Right now, adipocytes are fat tissue, are fat cells. Right now, he has very little adipocytes. Let's add more fat to him. Faster! As you can see, this entire thing helps him to pack materials, store energies, protect organs from getting bumped or injured, and acts as a thermal insulator.
The dense connective tissue is the opposite of the loose connective tissue. It is mostly made of protein fibers that form thick bundles, and there is very little extracellular matrix. The first type, dense collagenous connective tissue, is mostly made of collagen fibers. It makes the tendons and ligaments of the knees, like the anterior cruciate ligament or the patellar tendon. The dense elastic connective tissue is the opposite of the dense collagenous connective tissue. It has lots of elastic fibers compared to the collagenous fibers. This allows the tissue to stretch and recoil. It makes up things like your vocal cords. The stretching and recoiling of the tissue allows your vocal cord to make sounds. It can also be found in the walls of large arteries. Now we will be moving on to the supporting connective tissue. They are also known as cartilages, and they are made of cartilage cells known as chondrocytes. Back to the image of the knee. The white ends of the bone represent hyaline cartilages. They are the most abundant type of cartilage. They cover the ends of bones to make it smooth, so that the bones won't wear over time. The second type of cartilage is known as the fibrocartilage. It can withstand huge amounts of compression, pulling, and tearing forces. It can be found in the intervertebral discs of the spine. If you bend your ear right now, you will see that it goes back to its original shape. This is because it's made of elastic fibers and some collagen fibers. It provides rigidity, but it also provides a lot of flexibility. This is because it's made of a lot of elastic fibers. Bones are also a type of connective tissue, but they are especially hard. They provide great strength and support for the body. It protects internal organs, but it also helps the movement by attaching ligaments and tendons to muscles. There are two types of bone, compact and spongy, and each have different functions. The only type of fluid connective tissue, blood, is unique because it is a liquid. It moves throughout the body through blood vessels and carries nutrients, oxygen, waste products, and other materials. It's like the transport system, and all the products that it carries is the cargo.
Muscles are what make movement possible throughout your body. The first type, skeletal muscle, is attached to your bones all throughout your body and makes voluntary movement possible.
Without them, you'll all just be one big blob.
The cardiac muscle is what makes the heart. It is responsible for pumping blood throughout your body. It is also involuntary, which means that you don't have to think about pumping your heart. It just does it by itself. Smooth muscle is another involuntary muscle, but this forms the walls of hollow organs and regulates the sizes of organs. In the eye, this means that it regulates whether the eye is constricted or dilated. This controls how much light goes into the eye. The smooth muscle can also be found in the digestive system of the body. Here, food and other nutrients are involuntarily moved through the system. The fourth and final tissue is the nervous tissue. It makes up your brain, spinal cords, and nerves. Its function is to control and coordinate body activities, like moving my hand.
Let's pretend these people are neurons. Now, action potentials. It's a neuron's ways to communicate to other neurons what's happening.
When you cut yourself with a knife, bacteria will try to enter through your tissue, and this will cause inflammation. During inflammation, blood vessels dilate or get wider to transport more blood vessels to the site of the injury. This increased amount of blood helps speed up the process of recovery as well as fighting off the bacteria. There is a protein known as fibrosin, and it forms a network or a fence-like structure around the site of the injury. This structure helps prevent any infectious agents from possibly spreading to the other parts of the body. There is a white blood cell known as neutrophil, and it kills bacteria by going around and eating them.
Eating them!
However, after eating a few bacteria, neutrophils die, and it mixes up with other cells and fluid, and it forms the liquidy white substance known as pus.
There are two types of tissue repairs. One's called regeneration, and the other is called fibrosis or replacement.
The first type of tissue repair, known as regeneration, occurs when a cell dies and it grows back. Here's an example. In the second type of tissue repair, known as fibrosis or replacement, when a cell dies, it is replaced by a new cell. However, some function is lost through this. Here is an example.
The cell gets injured, And instead of regenerating, a new cell forms. As you can see, this young guy has good athletic abilities and his muscles are still intact. Now, however, sadly, when you get older, your athletic performance declines. The number of neurons and muscle cells decreases, and you won't be able to hear well or see well. And this is because cells divide more slowly in older people, which affects the extracellular matrix, and as the collagen fibers become more irregular and may increase in numbers. This makes the skin less flexible and more fragile. This gives you that. Now, elastic fibers also bind in calcium, and they become less elastic. And this combination of reduced elasticity of connective tissue is responsible for wrinkles and the tendency for old people's bones to break. Unlike this guy, you can see, still intact. Well, this guy, his posture is so bad because his bones are weakening and his hair is whitening.
Hi, I'm here to exclusively report about a rare type of genetic tissue disease called the congenital insensitivity to pain, aka congenital epithelium. So, Miss Yook, is it true you're like a superhero? I mean, you can't feel pain. No, I felt you touch me, but I can't feel pain. This is what's misunderstood about me. Even though I can't feel pain, sensations and my mental abilities are pretty much normal. I can feel if it's hot or cold, sharp or dull, but I can't tell if a hot drink is burning my tongue. Well, that's pretty amazing. You're like a superhero? You can't feel anything? Able to withstand great pain? Superhero? Great? You have no idea the mental pain I endure. Yes, I can't feel pain, and that's what's so wrong about it. I'm more prone to accidents, illnesses, wounds, bruises, and breaking bones. And did you know my life expectancy is pretty much low compared to other people? Because without pain, I can't feel what's wrong with me. And do you know what happens when injuries are left untreated? Death, infection. So no, it is absolutely not a blessing. Without pain, I won't know that I went too far, and I won't know what to heal. And as you can guess, I can still feel emotions. Okay, but there are no buts. I can't even smell anything I want. Sure, it's not good to smell poop or garbage, but what about flowers, food, baking? I can't smell anything. And do you know how many times I had serious eye injuries? That's because I can't simply stop scratching it too hard, and my eye gets infection, and I don't feel it. And you know what's worse? Every day, every second, I have to check my temperatures, because if I overheat, which I do not feel, then it will lead me to having fever, seizures, and death. Well, okay, I've heard of your, moving on, I've heard that your disease is considered a form of peripheral neuropathy. How does this disease relate to tissue? Aren't neurons a type of tissue? So I guess that would go into the category of tissue disorders, because it affects my peripheral nervous system, which connects the brain and spinal cord to the muscles and cells that detect touch and pain. Okay, but how on earth did you get this disease? Inferring from the title, congenital means it's hereditary and has something to do with genes. Both of my parents had a mutation on one of their autosomal chromosome and it passed to me. So somehow one of my genes that control nerve growth isn't working properly. They don't show the symptoms, so it's just me. Oh, so how does this work? Basically, it means that my brain isn't receiving any information from the neurons responsible to feeling pain. Neuron communication isn't lost though, because I can feel pressure. But somehow, some studies show that I have a decrease or absence of nerve fibers. And so, without these nerves, the brain can't communicate too well with the body. But I'm luckier than most, though. There's another related disease called the congenital insensitivity to pain with anhidrosis, meaning that the people affected by it can't sweat and therefore are more prone to seizure caused by fever because they can't sweat. And some of them have mental retardation. Oh dear! That must be awful! Is there any treatment? No, the doctors still don't have a treatment for it. The best my parents and I can do is to prevent me from getting injured all the time. So every day, as I mentioned before, I have to take my temperature, and whenever I have a bruise or blood, I have to go to the doctor to confirm it's not too dangerous. And I have to have a timer with me at all times because I have difficulty telling if I need to go to the bathroom. Overall, it's a tedious process. I'd rather feel pain than go through a lot of these things. Oh. Well, thank you, Miss